Hello and thanks for joining me. I'm Danny Damage and you're watching Putting It Bluntly for AEW Double or Nothing. Before we get into the actual show itself, it's very nice to see a live crowd at the arena. The Thunderdome for WWE is just getting horrendous, as I mentioned last time, so that was great. The crowd could just have had anything in that ring, and with AEW that was fortunate, but the crowd just loved it, which made the whole thing more enjoyable. The buy-in featured Serena Deeb versus Riho for the NWA Women's Championship. I want to see Serena Deeb absolutely batter the shit out of Riho, which is what we got. Despite Riho kicking out of everything like she usually does, eventually she tapped out. Because the fans were quite excited, they were split between the two lasses, which Deeb spotted and found some very nice ways to get them to turn away from her and establish a heel and face dynamic. So AEW stars normally wouldn't bother with that, they'd just appreciate the crowd's adoration. First on the main show, we've got Hangman Adam Page versus Brian Cage. Cage came out with some tinfoil armour. He's the Machine. It looked a bit like a poor man's Triple H at WrestleMania. And even though it took Adam Page a good 15 minutes to beat Joey Janela on Dynamite last week, and he'd left the match a bloody mess, he managed to beat Brian Cage. Cage did get distracted by Team Taz coming out and arguing with him. They wanted to help him. Cage wanted to do it on his own, and Hangman took advantage of that. And then after the match, Cage ended up pushing by Starks and Hook, and then he left. It went a bit too long, I think. I see the turning Cage at some point soon. Next up, we've got the Hardy Boys. The Young Bucks against John Moxley and Eddie Kingston for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. It's nice to see finally Matt Jackson has taken things a bit seriously and he's stopped having a face looking like Buffalo Bill putting makeup on in the mirror. It's a shame it took him getting his bloody shoes stolen for him to get this serious. And Matt as well, he's been working on his facial expressions and I'll give him credit. But Matt's usually the one that looks like a bell end all the time, so let's just hope they're going to take things more seriously in the future. And that didn't last long. The match the usual Young Bucks match, whatever you expect. Well, to be fair, they worked on building a hot tag to start with for like the first 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes tops, but then after that it was just everything everywhere. The referee walking around with his hands over his eyes. Just an absolute piss take. At one point, Carl Anderson came down the ramp, and for some reason the referee got out of the ring to go and face Anderson, so he couldn't come up with a more creative way of having the referee's back turned, which is just fucking lazy. In the end, the Young Bucks won after loads of shenanigans and stupidity. So, from 100-mile-per-hour clusterfuck to another, we've got the Casino Battle Royale, which is pretty much just like a Royal Rumble for people that have a short attention span or impatience, and they can't wait that full 60 seconds before they get to count down again and get the quick pop, sorry. I will say this, Max Caster is very entertaining. He's good on the mic, he's good on the ring, he's got great charisma. He's going to be a big star if AEW let him. So, looking forward to seeing what he's got in the future. Matt Hardy and Christian facing off was a nice little nod to the past. Apart from that, it was the expected clusterfuck. Everybody just ran in, did the moves. They missed out on opportunity too with Jungle Boy. When Jungle Boy came in, like with most Royal Rumbles, you come in and you're fresh, so you just hit everybody with everything. He ran in to feed Penta, and then he sold for a bit, and it just flattened his steam. I know they got the pop back at the end when he won the whole bloody thing, but it fell flat during the match, and I thought it was a bit pointless doing it that way. Leo Rush was a surprise entrant, and I like Leo Rush. He's also great on the mic, he's also good in the ring. But with AEW and their style, everybody does a lot of the same checklist of moves, and it's going to be difficult for Rush to stand out as much as he would do like he did in the WWE, because he's going to get lost in that, which is a shame. Next up, we've got Anthony Ogogo versus Cody Rhodes, which was the match I was the most intrigued with. Not because of Cody Rhodes' hero complex starting fires just to put them out and get the credit. With that, I'm referring to the whole England versus America thing. We've not had a problem or any division on that for some time now. Which they started the match before they started the match, we had a little tribute to the troops, as the WWE call it. Yeah, we're not trying to follow their pattern or formula or format or anything, are we? The match did start off quite well. Cody was just keeping hold of Ogogo's arms and hands wherever he could, which obviously makes sense when you've got a boxer. But by the end of it, Cody didn't just use Ogogo's inexperience against him, he just straight out wrestled him, outpowered him. There was even a point where Cody was throwing hands with him. But then that just built up to Cody hitting a vertebraker. and defeating him, and that was it. You had this opportunity with a Go-Go to build this monster that could have had a surprise victory against Cody, and instead it's just made Cody look strong. So, who benefited from that? Because no one's going to buy that QT Marshall's like an up-and-coming star. He's never going to be bigger than what a Go-Go could have been, or what Cody currently is. So it can't be about QT. It can't be about a Go-Go, because look, he's flat on his back. He had fists like shotguns going into this, according to the storytelling. So Cody survived quite a few of them as well. It's just such a shame. And why? In 10 minutes? Because of America, or because it's Dusty's kid, or just because it's Super Cody? Just such a shame. And now this next match I did enjoy, Miro against Lance Archer. Well, I didn't enjoy Lance Archer diving over the top rope at the start and nearly killing himself by landing on his head once again. He did this a couple of weeks ago. He did his moonsault backflip off the top rope, which you don't need to do it, mate. Just behave. Miro looked pretty dominating here. Archer did put up a good fight, but in the end, Miro just ended up making him pass out. The referee called it. It was a good match. There's something about Aubrey Edwards wearing that bright red lipstick that I can't get out of my head now, and she should be his new Lana. I don't know if she fancies bleaching her hair, speaking with an accent possibly. But now you've released the Brute once again. It's his inability to cut promos as often as they want him to is going to shine through in time, so he might need someone to do a bit of talking for him. Apart from that, I've really enjoyed Miro being the Beast Man. Next up, we've got the AEW Women's World Championship between Hikaru Shida and Dr. Britt Baker. It's a very good match. I mean, it wasn't Bayley versus Banks or Shayna Baszler or anything like that, but for AEW, it's good. I don't mean to take too much piss saying that, I honestly don't, but there is a bit of a difference. Let's not forget, Brandy Rhodes gets a little plug in there for all elite heels, just so you don't forget she's somewhere watching. There was a moment where Britt Baker took a shot to the head on the railing outside, which seemed to make her a bit woozy. I'm not sure if she was concussed. I saw a couple of people speculating, but I didn't see anything confirmed at this point, so let's hope it wasn't as bad as it actually looked. In the end, yeah, Britt Baker won. She made Shida tap out. She's the new champion. Second Daddy Tony's obviously very proud of her. And JR even said the match made sense, which not many of them do in AEW. So, well done. If anybody was worrying if Sting was going to jump off anything or do anything daft during the match, you don't have to worry. He did it all before the bell even rang. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. I could probably convince my dad for a couple of pints and some encouragement to jump off of something stupid. It doesn't mean he wouldn't regret it the next day. But I hope Sting's alright. He took a back body drop to the ramp and then he dove off the stage in. I don't mean to sound condescending, but like I said, being able to do it's one thing, but the next day and afterwards is completely different. It's concern. I'm not being a twat. But for the majority of the match, Darby Allin just got the shit kicked out of him. Sting made a couple of hot tags, came in, cleared house, tagged Darby back in for some reason. They did that a few times, and then eventually Sting pinned Scorpio Sky for the win. Dear, triple threat match time. Taking advantage of triple threat rules would make a bit more sense if the majority of the matches on the rest of the card weren't in a similar situation where the referees just either don't give a shit or just there are no rules. So we started off with quite a lot of flips and flops, obviously. Pac joined in, which then the crowd started chanting "This is awesome," and then he shot the whole thing dead, which was a very nice touch on his behalf. Kenny Omega looks like, I don't know, what is that, strap-on Barbie? Bondage Barbie? Just, yeah. I mean, Kenny Omega tells people he's a heel, he acts like it, well, he tries to act like a tough guy heel, but then as soon as he's in front of a live crowd, he can't help but pander for applause and adoration. It's just a bit sad, really. Pac gets it, like I said, he shot down the bloody chant earlier, and then once bloody Orange Cassidy started kicking him in the shins like a little twat, Pac just booted him in the balls, and that was it. The crowd hated it, but that's what you've got to do when you're a heel sometimes. Not everyone's going to like you, it's not the end of the world. They did have a very nice near fall towards the end after Pac hit the Black Arrow. Couldn't see Kenny on camera, he just leaned over, just tapped him to break the fall, which was fine. That's all you need is a little tap, it breaks it. It was good, I bought it. What wasn't good was the finish, though. Just Kenny decided he was going to take out the referee, go and get the belts, hit the two guys with all of his belts, and that was it. They couldn't think of a better way to finish it than just knock out the ref and start laying people out with belts. Lazy, really lazy. And then a wild Mark Henry appeared. He's going to be a part of AEW Rampage in the future, and that comes on the television. He just mentioned his name, said that, and he disappeared. Didn't say a thing. So we'll see what happens. What did stick around a bit too long, though? Stadium Stampede 2, or Stadium Night Live. The Inner Circle abseiled into the arena, and it's just, this is silly. Why are we playing these silly games? We had a cardboard cutout. We had Blood and Guts, or War Games previously. That should have ended the feud. You can't escalate any higher than that. And we just got these daft antics. It was like the Money in the Bank match last year in the WWE headquarters. Just like Dynamite is a lot of Monday Night Raw sketches repeated, or just slightly altered for what Jericho or whomever would have done if they were in charge. It's a bit pathetic, I'm sorry. MJF had something stapled to his head. It's the sketches. Why have we gone to this silliness when we had an absolute bloodbath last time? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's how it feels. It's like some silly thing in one of the video games, or an episode of Raw that's focused entirely on the 24/7 title. And I can't even say the good thing that the Pinnacle won, because they didn't. The Inner Circle won, and they pulled a standard pose of middle finger, look at us, we're nice rebellious kids, etc, etc. Sammy Guevara pinned Sean Spears with his 630, whatever it is. We had Blood and Guts last time. Jericho fell off the top of a fucking cage. And then the match after this is just ended in that way. We've gone backwards, I'm afraid. And we're going to keep going backwards because this whole thing's continuing because we're now one apiece. There we have it. That's it for AEW Double or Nothing. Overall, the show was okay. There was some silliness, which there always is, but there was some good matches in there too. The one thing I will say, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this later on in the week at geeksandgamers.com on Thursday, when I do That's Not Wrestling, is what's going on with Jim Ross. All night he was just randomly throwing positive things out about Kenny Omega. I'm guessing because people have complained that he didn't put him over as much as he put Randy Orton over during the week. Wrestling's this thing that makes people... Like, if wrestling can make Jim Cornette do that, that's a smile for people that haven't seen him do that before. If wrestling can do that to Jim Cornette, then why did Jim Ross look like this most of the night? That's not on. Someone has said something to him, and it's not fair. If he has an opinion that Randy Orton is a better wrestler than Kenny Omega, he doesn't even need to mention Kenny Omega being second. But he did. He mentioned him in the conversation. So, someone's thin skin got broken, which didn't take much, obviously. They've cried like a little bitch. And someone's told Jim Ross to put Omega over every opportunity he can. And that's what happened. And you're pathetic. You need to fucking grow a pair, whoever's upset him. Just, if he has an opinion, listen to him. You don't have to take it on board fully and do exactly what he says, but you don't have to make him out like a twat. It's just really childish. I mean, speaking of, that's you, Kenny Omega. That's you wrestling with a blow-up doll. Do you want to see anything else embarrassing? There we go. It's you wrestling with a fucking child. So if a veteran of the business doesn't for some reason think you're the greatest thing in the world, I wouldn't take too much offence, mate. I'd personally laugh in your face if I was him. So, yeah, just think yourself lucky. Anyway, I'm sick of talking about you, you twat. And that's enough out of me for the time being. Please show your support by liking, sharing and subscribing. You can follow me on Twitter at BluntDamage, Twitch at DannyBluntDamage, although I've not done too much on that at the moment. I will be in the near future. And you can go on to Ko-fi at /DannyDamage. You can also find me on Geeks and Gamers every Monday and Thursday, Monday in which I do another week of wrestling, which is just a general catch-up of the last week of wrestling. And every Thursday, we do That's Not Wrestling, where we look at AEW, how they promised to bring us a serious sports-based product and failed quite heavily. As well as mentioning that, we also go into the American Idiot Cody Rhodes, Matt and Nick the Hardy Soys, and redundant referees. You can also go to dannydamage.co.uk to find out anything else that I've written or made videos on or taken the piss out of, so please feel free. Once again, thanks for joining me. If you like the music you heard at the beginning, please stick around and enjoy some more. You can find the link in the description.